Good morning, everyone. Virgo, sit with this one. 3 things, real things, coming in the specific, unhurried, each in its own season way of abundance that lasts. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Subscribe, because what I'm about to describe deserves your full attention. Let's go. 3 is not arbitrary. In the deepest traditions of human understanding, not superstition, not magical thinking, but the accumulated pattern recognition of people across centuries noticing how things actually move through a life, 3 has a specific meaning that 1 and 2 do not. 1 is the event, 2 is the confirmation, 3 is the establishment. The thing that happens once might be luck. The thing that happens twice might be pattern emerging. The thing that happens 3 times has crossed from the territory of the occasional into the territory of the structural. It is no longer visiting your life. It has taken up residence. It has become part of the architecture of what you are and where you are going, rather than an incident in the record of what has passed through. 3 jackpots is not 3 lucky events. It is the announcement of a new structural condition, of a life that has crossed into a different category of what is available to it, not temporarily, not as a streak that will return to baseline, but as the new baseline itself, the thing that keeps happening, the thing that has stopped being the exception, the thing that is now simply what your life does. This is what is forming. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than, not a windfall and then back to ordinary. 3 windfalls in the 3 territories that most determine the quality of a human life, and the 3 windfalls changing the condition of the life permanently rather than passing through it and leaving it as they found it. The first jackpot, money not as the primary goal. Let's be honest about that from the beginning, because making money the primary goal is how money consistently disappoints the people who pursue it as such. Not because abundance is wrong or because wanting material security is shallow, because money as primary goal is money pursued outside the context of what it is actually for, which means the arrival of it produces less than expected because the expectation was built on a misunderstanding of what it can deliver. Money delivers conditions. The conditions make other things possible. The other things are what the wanting was actually about. What the money jackpot delivers is the clearing of constraint. The specific structural changes everything below it, clearing of the financial limitation that has been the organizing fact of too many of your decisions for too long. Not all decisions, but enough. Enough that a significant portion of your attention and energy and the creative resource that should be going toward building what you actually want to build has been redirected toward the management of the constraint, toward the monitoring of what is available, toward the specific chronic nobody celebrates the work of it labor of making things work within conditions that are tighter than they should be. The constraint is clearing. Not all at once clearing implies a process, something being removed incrementally or in stages, the specific sense of a thing that was present and is becoming less present and will eventually be gone. But the clearing has begun. The conditions are shifting. The organizing fact is losing its organizing role. And what moves into the space vacated by the constraint, the attention, the energy, the creative resource that was going to management is available now for what it was always meant to go to. The first jackpot is the liberation of your own resources. The money is how it arrives. What it delivers is the return of yourself to yourself. The second jackpot, love. And here the word has to carry more than it usually carries in readings like this, more than the romantic meaning, though that is present and real, and more than the relationship meaning, though that too is present and real. Love in the full structural, this is what human life is actually organized around sense. The love that includes but is not limited to the person who arrives and stays and sees you correctly and corresponds to the full, ready, hard-won version of who you are. The love that also includes the deepening of connections that already exist, the people already in your life becoming more fully present in it, the relationships that have been maintained at a certain distance becoming available at a closer distance because something in you has opened that permits the closer distance. The second jackpot is a softening of the landscape, not in the sense of things becoming less real or less serious or less demanding of genuine engagement, in the sense of the specific protective hardness that people develop in response to difficulty becoming less necessary. The way the body holds itself differently when it is no longer braced, the specific relaxation of a posture that was armor and can now be something else. The way relationships feel different when the person inside them is no longer allocating a portion of their presence to protection and can therefore be fully present in the way that full presence looks and feels radically different from managed presence. You are becoming available to love in a new way. Not because you were unavailable before you were available, within the constraints of what the period permitted, but the constraints are clearing. The armor is becoming less necessary. The version of yourself that can be fully present without the simultaneous management of the protective structures, that version is arriving. And it is arriving into a landscape that has, whether through timing or through the development of the specific person who is coming toward you, or through the deepening of what already exists, become capable of meeting it. The second jackpot is being met fully, at the full register of who you actually are, by the people and the love and the depth of connection that corresponds to that register. The third jackpot, long life. This one requires the most careful attention because it is the most easily misread. Long life does not mean years, or not primarily years. The length of a life measured in years is not what is being described here. What is being described is depth. The specific experiential, this is what it means to have actually lived quality of a life that has been inhabited rather than endured. A life whose texture is rich not in the material sense alone, though material richness is part of it, but in the sense of being full of the specific, irreplaceable, cannot be manufactured content of genuine experience, of things that happened that mattered, of people who were truly known and truly knowing, of work that corresponded to what you were actually for, of days that were lived at the level of their actual potential rather than at the level of survival. The third jackpot is depth of living. The specific qualitative richness that makes 20 years of this kind of life feel longer and more fully inhabited than 40 years of a life that was spent in the management of constraint and the endurance of conditions that were always temporary but never quite became the next thing. The life that feels, looking back, like it was fully used, fully inhabited. Nothing left in the container at the end because everything in the container was brought into contact with the actual, real, full register living that the container was made for. That is what the third jackpot delivers. Not years, life, the actual article. In the specific qualitative, you know it when you're in it sense of being genuinely alive rather than being in proximity to a life you are managing from a slight distance. You have been in proximity. The third jackpot brings you inside. Why 3? Why now? Why you? The 3 because each of the 3 enables the other 2. They are not separate windfalls from separate sources. They are 3 expressions of a single structural shift that affects all 3 territories simultaneously. The money clearing the constraint enables the fuller presence that the love requires, the love providing the depth of connection that makes the long life worth its length, the long life giving the money its purpose and the love its context. They are braided. Each makes the others more real. Now, because of the accumulation. Not the accumulation of goodness or virtue or anything that can be pointed to as the reason a person deserves good things. That framework produces only the specific corrosive anxiety of someone who is never quite sure they have accumulated enough to justify what is arriving. The accumulation of readiness, the specific, invisible, nobody celebrates while it is happening, accumulation of the capacity to receive what is approaching without the receiving producing the specific, expensive distortions that come from receiving things before you are ready for them. The premature love that overwhelms because the capacity for it wasn't yet formed. The premature money that slips through because the relationship with your own worth hadn't yet stabilized. The premature depth that can't be sustained because the architecture of the interior wasn't yet strong enough to hold it. None of that now. The architecture is ready. The capacity has formed. The relationship with your own worth has stabilized in the specific, hard-won way of things that stabilize through being tested rather than through being protected. You are now, in this configuration, the person who can receive all 3 without the receiving causing the distortions. You, because this is yours. Not in the sense that it was assigned to you by some external authority, but in the structural sense that what is approaching corresponds specifically to what you are, to the particular combination of what you carry and what you have built and what you have become and what you are ready for. The jackpots are not generic prizes distributed to people who have waited long enough. They are the specific returns on the specific investment of a specific person who invested specifically in the direction of exactly this. You were building toward this. You did not always know you were building toward this. The building happened anyway. And the thing built, the version of you that is standing in the field of this reading right now, is what the 3 jackpots are arriving into. The luck, I see luck in huge money, the title says this, and the luck deserves its own examination because luck is the least understood of the forces at work here. Luck is not random. That is the thing that looks most true about luck from the outside, but is least true about it from the inside. From the inside, luck is the experience of conditions aligning in your favor in a way that you did not engineer and cannot fully explain. From the outside, it looks random because the conditions that aligned are not visible. They are the accumulated result of 1,000 invisible choices and preparations and the specific unannounced development of a person who had been becoming someone for whom these conditions could align. And the aligning looks from outside the full context of that becoming like fortune. Your luck is not random. It is the visible face of invisible preparation, of the becoming that was happening when nothing was happening, of the foundation that was being poured when the surface showed nothing being built. What you are about to experience as luck is the moment when the invisible work becomes visible. When the accumulated alignment of everything you have done and been and built arrives at the specific configuration where it produces results that the people around you who can see the results but not the preparation will interpret as luck. Let them interpret it as luck. You will know what it actually is. The result of years of moving in the right direction. The return on an investment made in the dark, without confirmation, without the feedback that usually tells a person they are on the right track. The harvest of seeds planted in seasons when the ground was hard and the light was thin and there was every reason to stop planting. You kept planting. The sequence of the three, they do not arrive simultaneously. 3 jackpots arriving at once would be overwhelming, would exceed the capacity of even the most prepared person to receive and integrate without the receiving itself producing the distortions. They arrive in sequence, each one landing, being integrated, changing the ground condition, preparing the terrain for the next, the money shifting the constraint and freeing the resource, and establishing the new baseline that makes the fuller presence for love possible. The love deepening in the changed conditions in the less constrained, less armored, more fully available version of you that the money's arrival enabled in producing the specific quality of connection that constitutes the second jackpot. The long life arriving last as the accumulated result of the first two, as what the life becomes when the constraint has cleared and the love is deep and the person has arrived at the full register of their own living. The sequence is important because it means you are not waiting for all three. You are receiving the first, and the receiving of the first is preparing the ground for the second. And the receiving of the second is preparing the ground for the third. You are already in the sequence. You have already crossed into the territory of the three. The first is either already arriving or is proximate enough that its approach has already changed the conditions around you. Look for the changed conditions. Whew. The slight but real loosening of what was tight, the opening of what was closed, the first tentative, almost deniable evidence that the constraint is beginning to clear. That is the first jackpot announcing itself in its earliest form, and it is the signal that the sequence has begun. The sequence has begun. Virgo, 3 things are coming. Not as gifts from outside, as the arrival of correspondence of the outside world beginning to correspond to what the inside world has been developing toward, the alignment of the material reality with the person, the catching up of the external to the internal, The moment when what was built in the invisible work of becoming is reflected back in the visible reality of a life that has crossed into the territory where the three jackpots are possible, where they are not just possible but structurally indicated, where they are the natural consequence of having become who you have become and arrived at this configuration at this moment. The money, the love, the long life, each one real, each one earning the word jackpot, each one arriving in its own season in the sequence that the terrain requires into the specific readiness that you have developed. All three coming in the specific, unhurried, this is structural, not temporary, way of abundance that does not pass through but stays, that does not visit but inhabits, that does not change the surface while the foundation remains the same, but changes the foundation and therefore changes everything built on it. The sequence has begun, Virgo. Feel the first one arriving. It is already changing the ground beneath your feet, and the ground that changes is the ground that holds the next thing. And the next thing, 3 times, each one yours, each one real,